Hi. Hi, everyone. We are far away from home. So I ask you to be kind with this history that we are about to tell. The story we want to tell you today is a story of what we decide to believe in the world of art, what we did not, what, what we did not believe, and what we create. We are not supposed to be here today because we are supposed to be working for a great curator, not be one. We were also made to believe that the other female colleagues should be our enemies, and that success, or whatever that means, is always achieved individually and not collectively. But a curator friend of ours once told us, do you know why the art world is so violent? Do you know, guys? Because it's a cake and everybody is fight for get one piece or the whole cake. But we refuse to work that way. We don't want to take the pieces instead of someone else. We want to be bakers. We want for everybody to learn how to bake their own cakes. So we made a riot and baking with our college and our friends. And this is the part when we create.
We are women. We curate, we make art, we do research, we design. But above all, we defend our rights. We are women who wanted to create a space, a place that didn't exist. Political subjects who actively denounce the scant representation of women in a predominantly male and white art world. How do we do it? Well, through research and projects. We are a home that later became a house. Yes, we created a house within our friendship and later became a house, literally physically space we call Casa Revoltosa. We are born, raised, and based in Guatemala, a Central American country scarred by a 30-year civil war with violent war crimes, including genocide, whose systems of oppression still hold the country in a standstill. Activism is the trench from which we choose to resist, and the patriarchal system is the enemy we have chosen to defeat.
La Revuelta aims to tackle gender disparities through sustainable initiatives, tools, and advocacy strategies rooted in feminist perspectives. Our mission is to foster intersectional and decentralized dialogues, reshaping the narrative and historical memory through the unique experiences of Latin American women. Additionally, La Revuelta serves as a collaborative learning community, empowering us to forge our own paths, methodologies, and spaces across personal, artistic, and professional domains. Our approach is grounded in the art of possibility and feminist curation, as we strive to mend the social fabric through the contributions of women and feminized bodies, embracing our diverse identities like threads of many colors, as Kafnar said in 2010. How, you may ask? Well, for example, as you can see on the pictures right above me, by throwing bras at statues in main streets of Guatemala, which are not, well, they're of course only men, including our Nobel Prize Miguel Ángel Asturias, in this artivism called Los monumentos no tienen tetas, which translates to monuments have no tits. Or by marching on Women's Day with a flag which carries all the names of the women we have worked with, a woven and ongoing piece commissioned to local artist Clarice Branner, and to which we will proudly add a lot of amazing collectives and females we've met right here on March meeting. So, we're doing this by naming every woman in the past, present, and future, assuring the creation and continuation of our collective memory to make sure history does not forget us.
To understand feminist art, we must first understand that it's the continuation of a legacy that has traveled a long path, involving and changing its forms. Far from being a patriarchy dogma, feminist art represents paths of learning. Essentially, it emerged as a tool of our resistance and emancipation, where women are not just witnesses or those who sustain the struggle through the history, but are also the protagonists who lead decisions based on substantial questions about what happened in their territory, their bodies, and their realities. It has the quality to travel back in time, to honor and reflect on those who were not considered at the time, and to make sure never forget that in the future.
It can be understood as processes and result of the search, dialogue, introspection, exchange, and healing of memory, experience, desires, and goals of women and female identities. In order to build new alternatives both in language and practice, for more welcoming and inclusive scenarios in a favor of social justice and well-being. It is a tool that not only lies in artistic production, but also during processes, creating a safe space for free thought for women. The artistic pieces themselves are just a research. Feminists are creates a space that provoke the need to express our thoughts and feelings.
Mm, It is worth mentioning that for us, feminists arise of a rebellion, shedding stereotypes and expectations imposed by society, and breaking down the category. We like to think that if has a category characteristic, it will be freedom, to be versatile. More than a characteristic is a word full of intention. For us, it was essential to understand that the feminist art had the capacity to collaborate artistically with our friends based on joy and tenderness and self-care, activating new practice where art is the thread that leads us to stories with, diverse experience. La siguiente. So this is a really important picture for two things. The first one is because it was the first time we meet in 2020 after COVID. So in this picture, we realized that we all have legs. We are not only faces on the screen. And the next, in the second thing in this picture is important because it's in the outside of the museum, of the backyard of the Museum of Modern Art in Guatemala. You want to know what is the name of the museum? Of course, have a name of a man. It's called Carlos Merida. But the interesting of this is you don't supposed to have a picnic outside. But then we did this, and then we get into the archives and extract all the names of the woman who was not in the museum, but they were in the archive. Guess what? Now they have a home. She have.
While feminism activism arises from historical depths such as the protection of human, civil, political, cultural, and social rights for women only because they are human. It implies a constant process of questioning and reflection in our daily lives. Any action, big or small, that seeks to align our action with the ethical principles and values we defend, to support, feel and think, and defend the dignity and well-being of human and female identities, recognizes the importance of joy. We find a very important point in the bonds that feminism weaves, listening to each other, supporting each other, empathizing with one other. Because, because it is in this moment that the bonds and the struggle for our liberation are strengthened.
Listening is essential to understanding that the activism is diverse and understood through different bodies. For La Revuelta, feminism activism is intimately linked to art, as it's the tool we use, know, and understand to find how other women identify with the same struggles from their spaces. Understanding that this movement seeks to confront the power structures and strength in society demanding structural and lasting changes, although our work and discourse may be co-opted by the system. And times when spaces talk about inclusion, and not about the structural changes in power. It is crucial to maintain a critical perspective and continue challenging establishing norms, break our main inside and outside the system. This is the first class of the School of Feminism Activism after visiting some exhibitions in Guatemala City. We visit the retrospective of the Guatemalan artist Regina Jose Galindo named Grito.
During the Escuela de Activismo Feminista, which was more of a laboratory for young women to experiment. There were workshops about design, project proposals, curaduría comunitaria, activism, artist production, and documentation in gallery and health. As a result, final pieces were exhibited to the audience in a space that need a volunteers to be able to walk people through it. That's when I go to La Revuelta. they, they asked they asked me to be in charge of the important task, which I wasn't aware will bring so much joy into my life, so much productivity, and amazing adventure like being here today. Something very nice and curious at the same time is that when you go from being an observer of culture to actually working inside of it, your mind expands and manages to adopt a different perspective when it comes to how processes are driving to make it these cultural projects happen. Auto-denominating yourself as a cultural worker and throw away the limited thoughts imposed us on. Every piece shares thoughts, struggle, like experiences of each of the artists. Here, you can see Intimidad Marchita by Rocío La Parra, where through on Tendedero de Ropa, a clothes line, demonstrated how sexual and reproductive rights have been violated by Guatemalan government, obstetric violence, and the obsolete health system. In this piece, artist Abech Sakbech intends to portray everyday life and experiences of young women who have gone through an abortion process, exploring combinations, care, fear, and the ideas of imposed maternity in order to become an exploration of bodies before, during, and after abortion processes manifesto. And on this last piece, artist Barbara Montes, through picture raises her voice about violent phrases she's been exposed her whole life and that have conditioned her sexual life until she reached adulthood and had the combination of women friends that taught her different ways to live unrestricted.
Before I continue, I'd like to also take a moment to honor all the women who conform La Revuelta. La Revuelta is not only us six. La Revuelta are also our mothers, our grandmothers, our friends, and all of the women that we have been creating with all along these years. We believe that what we do is the result of organized rage. It can be the spark that ignites different flames of questioning in more women and thus multiply not solutions, but questions, and also the curiosity that drives us to continue with activism from different spaces. Also, all according to our different contexts and in an intersectional manner, of course. Art will be then the means by which activism can reconfigure new narratives and think of new horizons through languages that do not require words only, but actions as well. It is about giving a visual, artistic narrative to our demands. That is the reason we say that activism supports social complaints. And, and it does not take ownership of them. It seeks to reimagine oppressions and represent them in such a way that it bridges people through empathy and dignified rage. This we see here is Guatemalan artist Ana Lucia Galicia's performance back in our country. Here she is in front of the Ministerio Público de Guatemala. It translated as prosecutor's office. And this is a critic to the institution's inability to respond to lawsuits and the general demands of women who have suffered violence in the country. Because they are not being responded to, they are not being followed up, right? They're not getting any justice for their cases. They are being easily dismissed. So what she did was place herself in front of the building and started stamping printed lawsuits that she brought with the slogan of the institution, which is Justicia Eficaz, effective justice, right? But added the words, pero no para todas, but not for everybody, right, or for every woman. And what she did then was started stamping these pieces of paper one by one and throwing them into the wind without even acknowledging them or reading them, right, like completely ignored. So she throws them, representing how it feels looking for the prosecutor's office for help, right, like not being heard at all. Next, we have a piece by Francela Carrera, who's a Brazilian artist. This piece is called La Revolución Somos Nosotras, right? The revolution is us. It's from 2020. It's a hand embroidery on white tablecloth. As you can see, it's using, well, letters and also sign language, attempting to place women as political subjects through resignifying the act of embroidering. Historically, embroidery in terms of technique is found in a very specific context, that of the domestic life of women. For centuries, from generation to generation, we were taught that every woman had to have the ability to sew, embroider within our study space, convents, schools, or within the home. But embroidery has been more than an utilitarian task. It has been the sacred space where some women manage to have a voice, be heard, share knowledge, and support each other working together. For many women in all parts of the world in ancient times as today, not only are stitches joined with yarn, stories are also joined, forces are joined, and voices are joined. Francela states that this embroidered work is in memory of all of them, because together we are stronger, regardless of our disabilities, regardless of our beliefs, regardless of everything that is always imposed on us. Together we make a revolution, because we are the revolution.
One of our first catchphrases, we have many of those, by the way. They're on our t-shirts. One of our first catchphrases was, when the space is lacking, we envision its existence. In a similar way, feminist art and activism advocate for women to articulate their needs through artistic expression, serving as channels for raising critical awareness about the challenges they confront. Our aim is to emphasize that these issues are not solely women's concerns. They are societal dilemmas that impede women's empowerment. By reshaping the narrative, we assert that women have been systematically marginalized. Thus, our mission is not only to acknowledge this reality, but also to confront the systemic social injustices perpetuating the cycles of violence. We recognize that the problem is deeply rooted in otra vez, structural inequalities, and our efforts are dedicated to preventing such injustices from recurring. And what I've just shown you are a series of street flyers we've done in several occasions, several marches, and by several amazing artists.
It is important to consider that what has been known as our art historically does not recognize women, and when it does, processes of sexualization are implicit. That's why redefining the history of art is extremely important for us. Understanding art through our depatriarchalizing eye and thus setting our own rules and having the capacity to break them.
However, we recognize that the recovery and rewriting of feminist narratives is a complex process that involves both art and other means of expression. Art in feminism creates new paths of rebellion that redefine decision making. Our initial thought was to open enable spaces for creation and exhibition. But we also find it indispensable to allow ourselves to take up spaces because creating them is not enough. Neither taking without creating and not creating without taking. These go hand in hand in order to truly encompass that has historically has been denied to us. Only creating our own spaces continues to segregate us and implies that what already exists does not belong to us. This results in messages and dialogues always staying among the same people, the same circles, and same spaces. Perhaps our motto for this will be create, fight, and insist in every possible way, in all possible ways. So this is our fanzine, our very beautiful fanzine. This fanzine is the first edition in Guatemala that's bringing together interviews with Guatemalan curators and their thoughts on what curated means to them. Yeah. This was a self-management edition which was sold to able to execute other projects. We made that fanzine, we print that fanzine, and we sell that fanzine. With this fanzine, we can find a curatorial decalogue created by Rosina Casali, who is a woman curator in Guatemala, where we could find phrases like, if you decide to be curator, stop asking for forgiveness or permission to give your opinion.
Well, as Maya mentioned before, we are a pandemic collective, so we're kind of like very young still. We were founded until 2020. Since we met on that context, our first project was a digital exhibition made by Central American women. And I bring this to a conversation with this picture because Recontarnos in 2020 then was submitted to this place called Apex Art in New York, and it finally came into physicality. And so here are some pictures of how it came to be like exposed in the physical three-dimensional world, our first project. And well, now I'm gonna talk to you about our home, La Casa Revoltosa, the Revolt House. So it became, we have a place now. Like, as you can see before, we didn't have a place, so we worked on the streets. It was very like out there.
It was really
Our
fun.
first residencies were on the streets. We we like the streets. We like doing things there. We like to take public space and recover public space. But having a home meant something else, right? We can invite other women. We could create, share, think, write, experiment, cry, reflect. And La Casa Revoltosa allowed us to do something we couldn't have done before, which were, this is our home. This is La Casa Revoltosa. Which were artists in residence. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Residencias de Arte y Resistencia, which could be translated to Residencies of Art and Resistance. So we had 3 amazing women last year. This is Contenida, Contained, by Jimena Gandini. She's a Guatemalan editorial designer who explores her love for words by exploring her archive and various combinations between writing and graphic. And this is her exhibit. Then we have Disturbios by Ana Mar Rojas, a Costa Rican artist. And she's a singer, a musician, a sound producer, and a radio broadcaster. And she centered her whole work on sound. And speaking of which, Vekis has, she did a radio inside our house and people could record there. Like she had her radio programs, but people could also go there and, you know, have a little chat. And Vekis will play you now some of the things that were recorded there. Yeah, the introduction for our radio.
Like a podcaster, but with beautiful voice. This is an ama, so you can put a face. She really exists, so I'm gonna put you.
La revuelta. Vamos a escuchar primero escuchar ese audio de las morras en las calles. Eso nos va a dar contexto como para entonces, el audio se termina y escuchábamos el ambiente. Aquí yo pongo locuciones para que la gente las locute. Y también está la libertad de que pues añadamos lo que queramos añadir, pero la locución está. Entonces se hace la locución, termina el audio, se hace la locución.
This audio, she explained how it works, the radio, but we didn't get it at the first time, so we have to call it many times.
She left a manual at the end because we didn't know how to radio. Now we're experts on radio. It was very fun. And our last resident, whose exhibition is still it's still on exhibit, is Mandarina Verde, which is green mandarin. She's a Panamanian painter and street artist. And in El Patio es afuera, which translates to the garden is outside, she explores the need for green and natural spaces and her practice of cultivating food in urban spaces through paint, fanzines, and muralism.
We believe that feminist art should be inherently intersectional because it does not confine itself to the experience of a specific group of women. There are no barriers or limitations which allows our expanding dialogues among women and serves as a reminder that while we share some struggles, our demands are not and not should be the same. Because we are different individuals and generalizing our needs is a patriarchal and somewhat dehumanizing act. Art can contribute to finding common ground among women from different backgrounds with different interests, etc. Or simply be a space for listening and empathy. This is very important because art isn't a language in itself. It is a tool that can be universal, creating a space of common learning that can lead to the same encounter, redefining narratives. And now we are going to show you extract from the documentary Escuela de Activismo Feminista, a process documented by a film crew made of female Guatemalan cinematographers.
Esta visión de volver a replantear qué era para nosotros como nuestra sexualidad y cómo la vivíamos. Inmediatamente está vinculada a nuestros cuerpos, pero más que nuestros cuerpos también a esa dimensión emocional y también espiritual de muchos procesos que pasamos. A veces como mujeres mayas nos imponen como muchas cosas de cómo debemos hacer arte. Y para mí esta experiencia fue también algo, como una cuestión también muy experimental, en cómo las mujeres mayas también podemos ir adquiriendo otras como formas para poder hacer arte y desde dónde también nos movemos para hacerlo también, o sea, también cuestionando incluso cosas dentro del mundo del arte, pero también siempre prevaleciéndose nuestra identidad.
Pues nos enseñaron muchas herramientas, como ya no solo en elaborar las piezas, sino todo el trabajo que hay detrás. Creo que algo que me llevo y que es de mucho aprendizaje es la importancia de los procesos y de que los procesos pues no siempre son lineales o no siempre son perfectos, sino que siempre hay tropiezos en el camino, pero esos mismos tropiezos te ayudan como a elevar a veces las piezas.
Thank you.
Solo, yeah, it was really weird because we are the loudest over here in all March meeting, and we were really quiet right here. Like,
Thank you for the Latin whooping. Yeah.
I just want to say before we pass to questions, like it seems like we have all figured out, right? Right, but in the start we didn't. We only have ourselves, like designers, punk ladies who understand that it was something really wrong in the world. We don't know how. We don't know nothing how to change it, but we know we have friends, and that it's all that we need. Like that is 4 years later, we are here in Sharjah, so we're not doing nothing wrong. We're doing all the things right. So this is the time we have to. I don't know if you want to make questions or something.
Comments, gossip,
Congratulations. Complaints.
compare. A microphone for the lady who has complaints, please.
She have a gossip.
No, primero para felicitarlas. First to say
Gracias.
congratulations to this very inspiring and moving presentation and really for being introduced to the work that you guys are doing in Guatemala. One of the ideas that I come to my mind as I see you presenting is what has been the reception for your work among, for instance, the traditional art college of universities, because you guys have declared yourself pedagogue and have declared yourself academics, creating this a school of feminism and also creating an institution, because la Casa Revuelta itself represent, ahora estoy, en español se los digo después también.
Muy bien.
Y entonces pienso que es una atención bien interesante, un acto muy bello, no de solo de desafío, pero de intencionalidad, que es lo que pienso que aprecio más como académica y además feminista. ¿Cuál es la recepción? ¿Cuál es la relación con estas instituciones tradicionales que tienen ustedes? Y también ya quiero de paso invitarlas a Matanzas, Cuba. Oh, so I asked the Revueltas what is the relation between the school that they have launched, the School of Feminism, and what had been the reception with the traditional institution of college for arts, of universities in Guatemala in accepting and embracing their proposition. And I invited them to Matanzas, Cuba, and a project for Rios Intermitentes, and I am very impressed and celebrated the work that you guys, they are doing together. Very beautiful, very powerful, very inspiring.
Thank you.
Voy a responder en español y Christa me va a traducir.
She's going to answer and I'm going to translate.
En este caso, lo que sucede es que la academia responde a una lógica occidental.
In this case, what happens is that academics normally respond to Occidental logic, like Western logic, sorry.
Okay. Entonces, todo lo que sucede en nuestros cuerpos, en nuestros territorios,
So
en nuestra
everything
cotidianidad,
that happens in our bodies and our territories
no está contemplado bajo estas lógicas.
is not it's not under these logics.
Entonces, lo que sucede es que a partir de los conocimientos que sí existen y que hay dentro de nuestra cotidianidad o nuestro territorio, que es Latinoamérica, lo siento.
Okay, I'll do my best. So what happens is that, ¿otra vez?
Lo que sucede en nuestro
So
territorio
what
y en
happens in
nuestro
our
cuerpo,
territory and our bodies,
que es Latinoamérica,
that's Latin America,
no está contemplado en la academia.
it's not even taken into account in the academy.
Entonces lo que hacemos es que a partir de nuestras experiencias, nuestros sentimientos,
So what we do, based on our experiences and our feelings,
es validar todo esto que sucede a nuestro alrededor
is to validate everything that happens around us,
para crear mecanismos o procesos
to create mechanisms and processes
que sean más empáticos con nosotras
that are more empathetic with ourselves
y que al final respondan a otros intereses que realmente nos representan y nos atraviesan.
and that actually respond to interests that represent us. And we use this very much in Spanish, is go through us. When something goes through you, there's like no literal translation we found.
Cri cri, sentir pensar, ¿cómo se traduce?
Sentí pensar. Oh God.
Like thinking,
Like the thinking, feeling.
thinking,
To
feeling.
validate.
It's a verb together. We put it
We
together.
put it together to think, feel. So think, feel is everything. Your thoughts and feelings are also valid sources of knowledge, and that's what the escuelita does, basically.
El programa de enseñanza de la escuelita
The program of the school
fue pensado a partir de las necesidades e intereses de las estudiantes.
Oh yeah, it was created based on the needs and interest of the students who form part of it.
De la misma manera que no nos exigimos a nosotras mismas,
And in the same way, we don't push ourselves too far.
no imponemos a las estudiantes ni a las mujeres con las que trabajamos
We don't push the students or the women we work with, like not that far.
cómo deben pensar, cómo deben hacer arte
Like how should they think or how should they do their art,
o a qué tienen que responder.
or to what or whom they have to respond.
I would like to add that on like regular schools, there's no like hierarchy, right, in this dynamic. More than a school, we see this as a laboratory, right, as a space where all of us with them can like exchange and co-create, yeah, a safe space when you don't feel the pressure of having to be the best or, yeah, demonstrate something, right? But a space where you can actually ask the questions and not necessarily get the answers, maybe leave with more questions, right? So that's where we find the value of all of this process, that it's not, there are no hierarchies, right? So that we learned a lot, just like they learned, and it was a process that was very fulfilling for all of us.
And we left the catalog of the school and the library, so you can see it. all the pieces from the girls, but it's in Spanish, so you can appreciate the pictures. Or you can, if
Or
you
use
speak
Google.
Spanish,
Google Translate.
or you can came with us and we translate.
Well, I just want to add something like the challenge or the audacity we have to make this school. I think that is because we don't care. Like we were enough of men. We see men speaking on in a conversatory and everything, and we were like, no, he didn't say that. Like, oh my God, it was so hard to hear them, and we were no, enough of this. We are gonna make it our own. Right? In not our own, only six of us, but to understand that what we create is in base of all of us.
Yeah, we're not waiting for the validation of a system we don't actually believe in, right? To start doing things. So that's why we did it.
Other question? Like the gorgeous girl with the glasses on back.
Hi, thank you so much for everything that you shared with us today. I guess what I wanted to ask was also partly a comment that there was such a sense of celebration and joy in what you're doing, even though you're struggling against such oppressive structures. And I wondered if that was intentional or if you could speak more about that.
Sure. We're going to intervene this a lot. Joy is a fundamental part of our resistance. In Espanol, we call it gozo. And we really try to take joy as a shield to the oppressions that we are facing. And it makes our resistance, our fight, our day-to-day a bit lighter. It is, I think, the way we found, and it's to walk together through all of this. Joy is needed.
And the reason you have seen us during these days, like laughing all the time and everything, it's and very loud, sorry for the inconveniences. It's because before we were colleagues, we were friends, right? We met with the intention of having a good time doing the things we're passionate about and sharing it with other women and not thinking of this as our workplace, right? It's got into that because we're really invested in it, but not because it was intentional. So definitely joy plays a huge and important and crucial role in our dynamics. And as any friendship, right, maybe it is even more complicated as friends than just colleagues because our feelings are very invested, right? And there's good and there's bad feelings, and it's really hard, but it's also very satisfying.
And I think that I blame Fernanda. Fernanda is always making all laugh, and she has a really loud laugh, and so we all be content with her. But the reality is what Fernanda's saying. I think is really beautiful. But we decide, like it's a decision a long time ago that we were working in the world of art. That we decide I'm not going to work in a place when I'm not gonna be happy, and this is the revuelta for us. Like we some when you cry, you have five friends to hug you. When you are happy, you have five friends to be happy with.
And one day you are here, and the other day are just having a party to make money for more projects. So it's like that too.
Bartenders.
We have merch.
Hi, gracias por traer las voces del feminismo latinoamericano hoy. Thank you for bringing Latin American feminists voices here today. I wanna ask you about what do you think about the intersection of art and activism and feminist fights in Latinoamérica. Les quería preguntar sobre qué piensan sobre esta intersección que se da entre el arte y la lucha feminista en Latinoamérica. Because in Mexico, at least, there's been like this huge intersection between art and feminist march. And I think Mexican women are finding in art and activism a way of express the necessity that they have. Porque creo que en México hay una intersección entre el arte y el activismo. It's been super clear when the women in the Earth of March are painting all the monuments, and it's become super viral, but also it's super strong because all the city every year turns into colors of, for example, all the names of the woman that has been killed. In Mexico, there's 10 feminicidios that are the names that we put to the women who has been killed. 10 feminicidios per day. And one of our way of remember those women is by painting their names in the streets. So I wanted to ask you, what's your feeling about this intersection between art, painting, and our goals in feminism and our fights? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think we all meet each other in the streets, so that is really important. We all are activists. So activist for us is really important, and we understand that like we are not taking the struggles and do it art, but we are embracing the struggles to fight together. Like that is really important to us. We are not only using the terms and a notion. No, we always ask what we can do. And we fight with a lot of projects in Guatemala. Each other have a different project individually, and they bring together La Revuelta so can we speak in the streets. I think that is the most important for us, like understand that for me, for all of us, is not, we understand that the art cannot change the world, but it can be a fire, a little fire, so can burn everything.
Yeah. We're just organizing here. Sorry, this happens all the time. I think a shared opinion might be that a wall is just a wall, but you cannot, and you can paint over it if you want to, but you'll never bring a woman's life back. So if painting all over a city the names of the women who have gone missing, it's what is necessary to catch people's attention to this problem, then let them do it. Over and over again.
Okay. También es importante cómo pensamos el arte.
It is also important how we think of art.
Y que no solo sucede en una galería o en un museo.
And that it not only happens in a gallery or a museum,
sino que sucede en nuestros espacios más cercanos y en nuestra realidad más cercana.
but it also happens in our intimate spaces, in our close reality.
Entonces, si algo que sucede, una acción o hay algún objeto,
So if something happens, there's an action or an object gets intervened,
que no está en una galería o que no está en un museo,
that is not in a gallery or in a museum,
pero que tiene una carga simbólica o política.
But that it holds a political, simbólica, a symbolical or political, it carries a symbolical or political significance.
Es importante que lo hablemos, lo comunicamos, lo debatamos.
It is important for us to talk about it, debate about it, and communicate it.
Con personas que no son las que tienen acceso al mundo del arte, porque eso es importante decirlo.
With people who do not have access to the world of art, because that's important.
Y también reconocer la pertenencia de la historia de la mujer en el arte.
And to recognize women's belonging in the world of art.
Porque en su mayoría ha sido en las calles.
Because most of this has been on the streets.
Thank you. Oh, just to finish, I would like to add that we see this as, well, just like Ana Lucia Galicia's performance stated, it's easier to ignore these feminicides, the violence, right? And as Jimena was also saying, it's actually making it accessible, right, to everybody. And of course it is uncomfortable, of course it is tough, but it is necessary to bring this uncomfortableness that we live every day, right, to other people, to create awareness and to also send a message, actually. So,
Hi. Hi. First of all, I'm so happy to have you here. First Guatemalans in Sharjah, first Guatemalans in a March meeting, so I'm so excited to have you all here as a Guatemalan myself, so I'm very happy
¡Que
that you
viva
guys are here. Yes. I have a question. What has been the impact or the appreciation back home in Guatemala? How has been the results in the Guatemalan community regarding all the work you've been doing in the past four years? And what have been the challenges you have to overcome, especially coming from a country like ours, which is very, very man-oriented?
People don't like us, and we don't care. No, not like that. I think that I'm the old one of everyone. But that means when I grew up in the art world, it was really hard with me because I don't have like what we say on the conversation. It was really important because you should work with the great art curators. And when you learn the history of art of Guatemala, it's about men talking with men talking to themselves, men in the museums and everything. So right now, when you enter to Casa Revoltosa, it's amazing. Like, it's full of girls, like gorgeous girls, riot girls, talking to each other, making questions, doing art in the residence, doing art in the street. We have political talks inside. So we think, we always say that with Jimena, we say that like, it's not the same. We don't want to belong to that art world. We want to create our own. And right now, I can tell you that it exists right now. It's a whole new world, and it's exciting, and it's more pretty, and it's fire. I think this, I don't know.
yeah, and most of the exhibitions that the pieces that we showed today as well, in most of the exhibitions, it's been the artist's first exhibition, their first piece, right? Because they finally found a space where they can showcase their art and feel comfortable actually doing it, right? Not feeling used or somewhat, right? So that's where we've seen the change. They feel more comfortable participating and creating as well and sharing what they do. And now that we have the library as well, right, having La Casa Revoltosa has been very important because it has this energy and it's a space where they can just go and just spend the time and work in the library, right? So that's where we've noticed the main impact and the struggles, definitely the ones that Maya was mentioning, and also, well, trying to get the funds, right, to keep the place. That's been one of the main struggles because, as we were mentioning, like most of our fundraising has been like
making parties and yeah, us being the bartenders and selling merch, right? Because yeah, there's no support. So we need to find ways to maintain this alive, to keep this alive, right? So that's been another struggle.
Estar acá
Being here
es asumir una responsabilidad,
is assuming our responsibility
tanto como nuestra vida individual como colectiva.
as individuals and as a collective.
Tiene un peso histórico
It holds a historical weight,
y es gracias al trabajo que hemos hecho en un sistema que está precarizado,
and it's thanks to the job that we have done in a system that's precarized. In a system that's not working for us, a very poor system.
Entonces, parte de nuestro trabajo
So part of our job
es luchar contra es combatir las brechas de género,
is fight against gender gaps,
documentarlo, hacerlo, no, como evidenciar que existió
to evidence that our job exists and existed,
y sobre todo nombrar que antes de nosotras también hubieron mujeres.
and above all, to name that before us, there are other women who came before us.
Entonces, realmente es reconocerse dentro de una historia de mujeres
So it's to recognize ourselves among the history of women.
que no termina ni empieza con nosotras,
It doesn't begin or end with us,
pero que estamos buscando hacerla más amable,
but we're looking to make it more affable, kind,
con más pertenencia
with more belonging
y con más risas.
and more laughter.
We said as a collective that we are fighting over here for in the future. Girl like us doesn't have to have the same fights, the struggle as much that we did.
And it's not a challenge, but it's a reminder that we didn't want to leave behind anyone. So the reminder is the flag you see in the presentation with the name of the other girls and other women. So it's more like a reminder.
It comes from the motto, aquí nadie se suelta las manos. Another one of our mottos. Here no one lets go of each other's hands.
Thank you. Yeah.
I think our time is up, yes?
Now we're going to sing.
Now we're going to sing. I think we are all hungry. If you want to talk to us, you can see we're very friendly, so come and have a chat, and that's it. Thank you very much, everyone, for making this possible. Loving the whooping, yay!